Okay, there we go. Welcome everyone to the 40th Health Teaching Workshop of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. It's Tuesday, September 22nd, 2015, and we have Mr. Keshe there at the Spaceship Institute, and he'll direct today's teaching on health teaching. Go ahead there, Mr. Keshe.
Teachings, health teachings of the Keshe Foundation on Tuesday afternoons is the first session of the second part of the first year, what we call the masters. One of the things was just before we start, Marco was asking me a question and I said maybe we can address it. As you know, one of the members of the Keshe Foundation at the moment is sick, and we think if we are right, hope we are wrong. He's been receiving a large dosage of all sorts of things being in the wrong zone in the world. And what Marco asked me is, can we help him with like CO2? This is what we started, and his wish is to be able to make it because he thinks himself, as a member of the core members, he will be needing it. And in so many ways, modern warfare has a solution or not. This is something we should not be addressing, but this is something maybe we have to address. What we need to address is that we have a situation now in Fukushima, we have a situation now in Iraq, where nuclear materials are freely in the environment. One is due to accident and one due to the war. And in the past few weeks, we received all kinds of reports that in Syria, these kind of weapons have been used. But be it nuclear, be it biochemical, be it totally chemical material contamination, not necessarily in the war, is the solution to the GANs or plasma technology for these kind of problems. We don't have a screen at the moment. I don't see the camera working. It's working now. Oh, I've got Rick back. Hi. So the question is, can we use the plasma technology for change of the condition in these contaminations? Oh, I jumped in the middle. So the problem is twofold. One is what has been delivered by the entity, by the chemical, by biological, or by nuclear. What was delivered? What material was delivered, or combination of materials delivered that their effect on the gans of the body is as such that the gans of the body cannot control it, cannot hold it. It's too much energy delivered in one time. What has been seen but effectively kept away from public is what we call effect of any of these nuclear, biochemicals, or biological or nuclear is not so much on the man himself, but is on subspecies, like parasites, like worms. And then the man, by all sorts of accidents, takes these into his body. And then what happens? Now we have a mutation in animal, which in its mutation arriving in the body of the man behaves totally than what we knew before. This is a very hidden technology from the front of science pages because it's so much that we don't know. It is known as biochemical nuclear parasites. What happens is in the war zones or in an explosion nuclear condition, the combination of three in the environment affects the creatures in the environment. We've seen in Ukraine over 20 odd years now of what we saw in Chernobyl has created new type of plantation and new kind of animals with not deformity, but a new structure. If these large animals or trees or plants have been affected, what about the parasites? What about the small animals? They stand a bigger chance of change. And then our body is not ready for it. And this is one of the biggest problems which has been kept away from public because we know nothing about it. We don't know how to handle it. A harmless parasite through the interaction in entering the body of the man in the digestion system brings a different behavior, different energy release. And this is something which most of what we see, for example, American soldiers which are coming back from the war zones suffer from side effects of different chemicals. There is a study is that these guys, some of them have this disease, this structure of the biochemical nuclear parasite. You get bitten by a mosquito, you get malaria. These are new mutations that our body is not ready for, and sometimes it takes weeks and months to show itself. Now, one of the Keshe Foundation members of the core team is in this situation, or we think he's in this situation. He's been in the environment, and we're trying to find out if we can help him. And what Marco just raised, the question, can we use CO2 for him? We already started the process this morning in trying to see if we can interfere with the process. Will it affect psychological or the physical side? This is not the only thing. In a space, we will face these kind of things drastically. Matter changes without us knowing and carries structure in a plasma that our body cannot tolerate. How do we find out where it affects, where it sits? Does it touch the liver? Would it sit in your brain or would it sit in your kidney? And once you arrive, how do we extract it? How do we neutralize it? Like the way you put the pen on the skin. Can we produce different kind of pen with different than copper that matches the strength of the parasite? In a space, you have to be aware more of this than these two. These two are part of the state of matter stream. This sits in two borders, both matter and a plasma. In the present knowledge, we only handle this, and we haven't barely understood nuclear. Can addition of CO2, as we had in the Spanish lesson, on the breast of a man, be able to change the position of this? Or would, by addition of more energy, we cause more problem? Or do we bring a balance? This is one of the parts which we have to face in the coming times more and more. In fact, if you think of it, it's very simple. In nuclear explosions, like Fukushima, nuclear reaction starts the chain of chemical reaction when their interaction can create a new biological connections and then new entity. And this new entity could be in plasmatic condition or could be in matter state or what you call radiation. But somewhere in there, the biological comes through an animal too. It's not actually creating a biological warfare, it's the amount of energy which is released by these two into a body of a subspecies can create the same problem as actually becoming a biological new diseases. Can we use the plasma to change these? We know, as you're aware, we announced in past few weeks that the use of the new plasma technology, if it's used in masses, can feed down the nuclear reactors and it has to be protected. Some nations, we think, are listening to the call. We don't know the reason, but as some of you know, if it's true the report, the Swiss government is decommissioning or shutting down all the nuclear reactors. We don't know if this is true, but it is. It means to understand the position. Don't forget, the new energy system in Italy will put pressure straight away on north of Italy into Switzerland. Now, the position is how much can we change? And in a space, if we meet the same replication, what can we do? You have created through new reactors. Even we've seen it in the recent few past weeks. Coming reports from different people, for example, the Chinese Keshe Foundation, who are working on the fat boys, how they see new materials in the fat boys. They're asking, what are they? Some of it is themselves creating it, but some of them lead, because of the new conditions, to creation of new entities, new structures. Not necessarily living, it could be chemical, it could be biological, it could be a new source of radiation. But how do we handle these in a space? Leaving it to you is a dilemma. Leaving it to me is nothing, is not important. Because if you create a plasma reactor which has a barrier limit between the structure of the man body, which means anything over it and under it will not go through it, is absorbed by it. One of the reasons, if you look at the structure of the reactor control, if you remember what we showed, the one which Marco made with the rings, one of the reasons for loading this in the center and loading this in the center is to keep this boundary. A minimum and a maximum what you can accept in magnetical and gravitational. If you understand the position of your system control in this structure, then you can stop a lot of what we call plasmatic fields which come into space in converting to becoming diseases and the others. Because when you're in a space, in your spaceship, you're no different than a fat boy. You receive radiation, part of it harmful, part of it is the structure which you need. It's the same as here. If you go back to some of the lectures I've given a couple of years ago, and I repeated it before, is that if you look, part of your cancer is created psychologically. Part of it is created by the environment. And part of it is due to what we call Darwin effect, evolution. So this environmental effect, with the radiations which come from space, the radiation which comes from the inside decay of the materials from the planet itself, can lead to a lot of new conditions. So how do we extract these? Excuse me, Malcolm, could you ask Armand to come up? Because they wanted to be here. So we have to understand this. We have to understand how we can use understanding of a plasma to reduce the effect of environmental radiation, which can lead to biological and chemical change in the body of the man, that it can lead to diseases, can be sorted. How do you do it? How you bracket it? In positioning two rings, and mixture of the material in the two rings gives the boundary expectation of the body of the man. You're limited to man because this is what you need. But when you go to space and you get another creature to come into you, meet you, or you come across, this boundary of the field, the strength could be way critical to him. That's what we said from the beginning. If you remember, you never enter in a space in somebody else's domain. Your spaceship is your domain, their spaceship is their domain. We meet in the environment which is balanced for both of us. You never invite one on board. You found him? You never invite a stranger on board, not because you're afraid of it, because you're correct, you might kill him. Or you might give him some diseases from yourself. If you find a position where he is happy with, you are happy with, that's where you meet. The existence of man in a space has to be a peaceful transition time. It has to be understood, not just what's good for you, is what is good for everyone concerned. It does not matter irrespective of origin of the creation. So how do you handle it? How do we, at this moment of time, can help a large number of people with this kind of problems or in a space? The easiness of it is that you create a very strong plasma field, and within the plasma field, you create another plasma field. What you do, you create a boundary that one field absorbs and one field rejects. Means you deliberately create gravitational in one of your reactors and magnetical in another reactor. Then you set and you change the third reactor and you rotate the rotation of the fields without ever touching the top reactor. That, in this case, if there is any field changes, is removed from the environment of the reactors, the living quarters, to the base. This is essential. This is part of the fundamental, what you call decontamination. The decontamination in a space is not going and washing the wall and using bleach and God knows what. The decontamination in a space is understanding the work of the plasma, that you can remove plasmas which are not within the structure. So if you have a spaceship like this is the living quarters, and you have the reactors like this, it's no use using your boundary reactors to pull them to the side. What you got to do, you create, as I said, to extract the fields which are not needed in the lower part, and then you choose the third reactor to rotate to reduce the strength or reject the fields into outside. That's the only way you can literally clean the craft from unwanted energies. There is no other way. You cannot go and wash and change the field strength in every corner. But this, due to the interaction of the fields, will interact, and you find, as I said, an interaction and a rejection. So as you interact, you reject, and you empty the platform. Can we do the same with the body of the man in a case of biochemical nuclear condition? Yes, it can be done. It's fairly difficult at this moment, but considering it is very easy to. You can use the same combination as we've seen with the Chinese system in placing 3 reactors and combining the 2, that the third one creates ejection. As much as with a Chinese system, you can put the bottles around to give, you can put bottles around to attract. The extraction is not in one way. It's not that you send, as you see in this unit, it's not that you, what do you call it, only feed when you need it. You can extract it too. It's what the Chinese call yin and yang. You got to understand which one you're taking, what you're giving. So in space technology, do not go and buy bleach in the space. There is no bleach. And there is no alcohol to disinfect. So you got to learn the process of the space biological cleaning for the physical part of the body of the man. And it has a specific spectrum. And once you see it in that spectrum, anything above it or below it, or in its interaction to create it to go above and below, can be eliminated. You can get rid of all diseases. What it goes back to, it's what we said, the magnet. I had a bunch of magnets with me. I was playing with it. I don't know where I left it. It seems you too been playing with it. One says the other one says, no, it's the other one. So where have you put it, you two? He's checking his pocket. You don't know where you put it? Okay, no problem. Now we don't have any more magnets. Okay. So now, I don't know, you telling me. We got to find it, so it doesn't matter. We got plenty of magnets. It's just, it would have been nice to show something. Maybe I took it down. So it comes to the point that how do we do? How do you extract fields? And how, once you come to understand this field of strength exists in the environment you are, how do you add it to the strength of your boundary magnetic field that it creates a barrier for this disease. You cannot run your reactors continuously. You use very much like a DNA. Embed the disease in the walls of your craft. In your reactors, you embed the information of the strength that you know this could be, and as your skin of your craft is made out of the interaction of the fields, once you embed it in this ring, in these cores, it gets embedded in the structure. It's very easy. The way you put CO2 in the bottle and then you put, God knows, sugar in it, and you can transfer it or other entities is the same. Once the three reactors are embedded with a specific strength, that specific strength becomes part of the physical structure. So it becomes part of the barrier. Embedding of information in gravitational magnetic field is one of the most essential ways in the space travel. You cannot keep on changing, as I said, the wall of the craft. But as you have built the craft boundary through gravitational magnetic field strength of the reactors, once you change it, they change too. So in time, for example, when you go through the mass plasma zones of the universe or a galaxy, you predict the strength of this and you embed it in your reactors. And then what happens when you come to it, because is this plus its own original strength, you never get diluted. Embedding is part of the technology. And once you embed, you keep, you do not withdraw. Because then you can have a flow back in. This is one of the problems with the plasma technology. That if you create a condition and your body used to get to that condition because now is not embedding only there, this was created by the interaction of these, it gets embedded in every cell of your body. We see this, and you will hear quite a lot about this, especially when we deliver the energy systems, as I said yesterday. Once you start creating a demand, you cannot withdraw the demand unless you find another position to retract the demand back to itself. We got it? Okay, we'll see. One of the points in the health application in the space is to understand the totality of not what elements, but what magnetic fields and gravitational fields have been used to create a condition. Once you have these, then to be safe, you make strength by a factor usually of a 10 above that strength. Don't forget, factor of 10 is quite a lot in the plasma of the matter. If this is this, plasma of 10 is here, that's good enough. In the new systems which we are showing, we will show very soon, now we can dictate the order of the magnitude very easily. So, for example, you can go to the speed of light faster by the order of magnitude by simply, as you know, to go further up in the strength. You're going at the speed of light, at this speed, at this point, you go by speed of light at this point, 10,000 times faster. You don't do anything. You just choose a higher strength gravitational magnetic field. But because you embed that in the three reactors, which the fourth one is already decided by itself, you allow the whole physicality of the body of the man within the craft to work at this level. So you don't have fasten your seatbelt and lay back and put your tables away. It does not exist because you are within the structure and you are always constantly with the same speed. This is one of the first things a lot of you, once experiencing starting playing with the plasma for motion, will realize. That is no fuel, is change of strength. Some of you will go like this, Armand will go for this. Am I correct? This, we do not know. I think you got to add a few zeros here. Maybe. So this is what you've got to realize. This is how, the same way as you increase a higher order and you implant it in the three base reactors, you dictate the field forces in conjunction with the fourth one of the environment, then the plasma of the body of the man automatically moves to that level. So to you, inside the craft, you're still at normality. Nobody falls and nobody stands up and nobody gets dizzy. Embedding is part of the space technology development that you will find out this is too low, so it'll never count. This is on the border because some materials work in a plasma condition. The space technology in a plasma has a lot of advantages, and one of them is this how to use the strength of the plasma, developing a system that you dictate the strength, and then you decide where you go. And at the moment, the second you have decided on this strength here, and you embed it, which becomes the creation of all the fields which build the whole craft itself, you work on a new dimension, plus including yourself. It's easy. It's absolutely so easy that it will create mayhem for a lot of people. In a space, remember, there are no microbes. Does not exist. It's impossibilities. Extremely rare. In space, you have plenty of viruses because viruses are energy packs which affect and touch your body. In space, there is no radiation. Absolutely zero. Radiation is an attribute of interaction of matter state. The rest in the space is gravitational or magnetical. So you don't have the microbes and you don't have the radiation if and when you work in a confine of the plasma. The only way you handle the viruses is to find out their strength before they attach themselves to amino acid of the man to become microbes, to change the structure of the amino acid that you might call them a microbe, but still they have a virus attachment, so you still treat them like what they call it, the virus. Virus in the space technology is just a packet of energy. That's why you cannot touch viruses with any antibiotic. If the doctors treat the conditions of a virus infections with plasma and GANs, you will see the change in no time, instantaneously, because you give to them what they live off, they operate. Viruses operate on gravitational magnetic fields, and you put the GANs to it. This is why they tell you, you have a virus infection, sorry, there is no antibiotic. Antibiotic level is only effective at the microbe level. If you deal with viruses, which is connect themselves to the microbes, and they call themselves viruses, just bring yourself in touch with the GANs of any GANs. You will find out, it will give you an immediate result. Because you enter, you interact very much the same as the pen and the pain. Because it's of the same strength inside the body, interacts very quickly. Next time you get a virus infection, try CO2 GANs. Let us know how effective it is. And you say it works on it. Because now you understand scientifically why and the reason for it. Cover a tissue, as we've seen with Renan, with the GANs of CO2, and if it's a muscle infection, whatever, with the copper oxide for a few seconds, for a few minutes. There will be no more virus infection. You have to understand, as I keep on telling you, the totality, not just the physicality. Do not look for the physical outlooks of how it looks, but understand how the condition was created that it led to that position. The spaceship technology health is as easy as drinking water. If you know how to drink the water, if you drink it the wrong way, it goes to the other hole and it can kill you. But if you understand how it works, it's so easy because it's only one thing you need to deal with, and that's a plasma. Find out how two plasmas interact and where they interact, at what strength they interact. That's all you need to do. No more, no less. And then you decide where you want to move this. You want to move the strength here to be out of interaction, or you want to introduce it this way at a higher strength. If you go back on the system, did you take your system back downstairs again, Marco? You're so stingy, we can't share nothing, huh? We imagine we have this system here. These are the cores. This is the second ring. These are the other cores, 12 of them. Whatever. You create a condition for yourself to increase or decrease. If you remember, Marco had this little thing, is like a clockwork on it, to increase at a higher strength, to go higher in gravitational field or go higher on the magnetical field. And because you choose this one and you embed it, you decide where the interaction is. Is there going to be interaction with the virus or not? If you go in and increase the gravitational strength, but reduce the magnetical, then what will happen? How would the virus interact? Would it look for a bigger space to move, or would it retract and separate itself by positioning itself in a different position? You don't destroy nothing in space. You find a way to position it different way. You do not go with the habit of man to kill. You find a way, in a way, to increase the distance that the field is weaker than being closer like this. Because the further you position the plasma, the more interactions with other plasmas it has, that when it enters the body, it's weaker. So it does not create the damage or displacement or change of the combination. Any questions? You don't see any question means nobody understood. You are very, very faint, Rick. We can't hear you. Sandy,
Okay.
are you awake?
Yes.
She usually falls asleep at this time of the day. Am I correct?
Third time.
You're always about 2 o'clock till 4 o'clock, nods up. Now you can ask your question.
Oh yeah. When when you have a
Sound
virus,
a little bit louder. You're very faint.
you originally said something about if you can make the system before the virus attaches. Preventative medicine, I guess. All of a sudden, I'm thinking, uh, would that be because in order to get the virus then to sort of leave, um, you would have a process of actually energizing the virus and actually giving it more strength, sort of swelling it until it has to can't fit in its space any longer?
Can you explain yourself?
Well, I'm thinking when we have if a
This
virus
is the problem. When you start thinking, you start getting worried.
okay. Yeah, Bill says get used to it. um,
Okay.
when the virus has attached itself, and you are now in the process of using the plasma to get the virus to move on, so to speak, to find another position somewhere else. Okay. The other side of the fence all of a sudden looks better. Is the process is it just a pooling process? I'm also thinking that there's sort of a prodding element. That's the yin and the yang.
No, it's accommodating. It's accommodation. You accommodate, position each other in respect to each other. You don't push it, you don't shove it, you don't get his hand and pull it out. You create a condition. Most probably, the easiest way is to create. Let me explain to you something which it'll be very interesting for you lot to learn. This applies both in the health and both in the space motion and travel. It's not single-handedly. Remember, one entity in respect to another. Each entity is made of a plasma, which the physical structure becomes part of it, that you don't even see it. And in this process, when you have a plasma, you have both gravitational and magnetical. Somewhere gravitational, magnetical point here, balance is the point of tangibility. So now this becomes what we said, the surface of the entity. That's the point where they interact. So what you have is gravitational, and what you have here is magnetic. The same story sits on this side of the fence. When you draw it, then you see this is the strength, which gives you the magnetical and gravitation. But there is a game to this to play. In a space technology, when you want to travel from this position to this position, you can play it two-way. You can tune your gravitational magnetic field only to magnetical field, which brings you in. So what you do? You tune your magnetical equal to the magnetical field of this guy. So by doing that, you're already on a path to the gravitational to be pulled in. Don't forget, your magnetical becomes the gravitation of the other entity. Then you decide in which strength of your magnetical you want to move in respect to this one magnetical. And at that point, you decide the speed of travel. Hundreds of times, thousands of times faster than the speed of light. Because, don't forget, the matter state which dictated the speed of light for this planet is here. But for this planet, sits somewhere inside. So you decide in, because now you force the gravitational field to release more of magnetical to give you the balanced speed on here. It's a very tricky. If you understand it, if you understood this, you will find out this is what I said yesterday. What point is a point of division where you become a magnetical and you change to gravitation. Because if you take This gravitational, you are by order of magnitude thousands of times stronger than this order of magnitude. Because if this is the south pole of the planet, which creates the interaction, from here to get to here before you enter, you have entered millions of more interactions and you're much weaker. So understand this very carefully. And if you understand this, change the planetary to viruses, to infections. You create a repulsion by releasing part of the energy that satisfies this, because once in a virus you fed its gravitational, it has to release its magnetic, which does not match yours. You find without any problem separation of disease. In technical terms, we call it saturation. You saturate it with the higher strength, and by order, if you understood, if this was a planet, I miss this cleaning up when it comes to the new board. You can't clean it up like this. So magnetically goes, gravitationally goes in, and magnetically comes out stronger, because it absorbs the fields within the structure of the planet. It's the same field, because if you leave it, part of it feeds itself, and part of it receives more from outside. If you have looked at when you made the beads, I've explained this before, you put a stick there, you have a bead which goes back down, and then you have a bead which links up to the next core. This bead backing down is your magnetical that constantly keep a constant pressure on the field. That's your point of reference. And you take from here to the next entity. So the fields which are not used by this line can be fed back to get, it's a conservation of magnetic field. And all the planets exist through the same way. If you look at the Earth and look at the structure of the gravitational magnetic field of the Earth, if you have this, you have the fields which come in, and you have the fields which go out, and some of the fields you see feed back. You need this, otherwise the sun or the earth loses plasma in a very fast way. So this conservation is part of the field which is released, which is the strength of itself, is pulled back by the gravitational field in it. If you understand this, you understand this simple understanding, that the reason you're attracted to this planet is because of your fields matching to it, and no other way. Earth hasn't put a string on you holding you. Your gravitational magnetic field of the total mass of your body, which carries COH3, Mr. Cohen, plus the iron and plus anything else, is embedded in this structure. So you always go back to be connected to it. You have a loop of infinity. That's what gravity is. Now you understand. So you created it. You became from the hydrogen and oxygen of the upper atmosphere as Mr. Cohen, and then you attach yourself to the iron to become red-blooded. So now you found a common denominator field of interaction. You are always gravitated to it. You cannot miss it, because you made a link. It's part of you. That's what gravity is. There's nothing magic and there's no string on your toe. You have established by birth a connection between the elements with a common denominator, gravitational magnetic field. So is your infinity loop. It's your blood connection with the planet. And have you seen when you made the CO2 box and you added a little bit of iron to it, it turned up to be red. So this little guy, that little metal few atoms of iron, gave to you the link to the motherland. Because it's not matter state, it's a GANS state. And the plasma of the planet is in state of GANS, that's what it gives you. Then you still have the copper, and then you have the others. So what do they say? The white man can't jump, because the minute you jump, it brings you back. It leaves you in a state of connection. It's a very interesting point. You watch a movie, I don't know if you watched it. Have you watched the movie? The basketball game is called The White Man Can't Jump. Yeah? Has a lot of meaning in science. Why do we see different cultures can jump more or less? It's nothing to do with the thing. It's to do with what they carry in respect they can reject themselves from the planet. The looseness and the tightness. So I might have answered you, Cindy, but I don't know.
Yes.
You're still awake.
Well, yeah, and it did. So the virus would sort of go through an increase in energy. And that was sort of my question. I wasn't sure if it would just keep its same strength and leave, or if it would first increase in strength and then sort of find a better home.
It could be any of the two. It depends how you position it or how you want to position it. Maybe what is virus to you in the lung can be a fantastic energy for the liver. What is a virus in the brain could be the best solution for breast cancer. Is how and where you want to put it and where the interaction is taking place.
I must say, I didn't think about it that way.
Now you can. You're
Yes.
going to be the first spaceship astronaut woman, or Bojans we call them, captain.
That's an interesting, yes, I see the flip side now.
Okay, any other question? You see, I don't tell you this is it and this is sacrosanct and has to be. I give you always a room for you to develop the knowledge in the way you see it. And that's how when you start teaching in the future as teachers, some of you have already started, that's how you translate and transfer the knowledge. You always leave room for addition of thought in them, in your students, to be able to analyze according to their understanding and come to their own conclusion. Then you have served yourself as a teacher, because the teachers who stand with the what I call iron fists are the teachers who have no knowledge. Next question. I've got plenty. I've got one there. Don't worry. Thanks very much. Any other question?
Again, let me remind people that they can put up their hand as a viewer, and then they can become a panelist, and then they can speak if they'd like to ask a question.
What's the time? I'll leave you half an hour to discuss before we start the children's program. Or do we have the children's program today?
As far as I know, Kevin, is Kevin there?
Yes, we do. At
Oh,
5?
he's alive. Have you noticed he doesn't ask any more questions nowadays? That's a budget. Okay, what would you like to discuss? I sit down and you discuss among yourself. How do you see the future of space technology and medicine and health? Do we need? Oh, I don't sit here. I can see my bald head. I move on. I brighten the light too much. You got to see what you can add. Always consider, do we need to come back to the pharmaceuticals on Earth to find a solution? Or on the other hand, do you think in the future the pharmaceuticals, when they have a problem, send it to space to solve it first much faster than back on Earth? Because we'll find new solutions in different ways. We have to find new solutions because the present solutions have not brought much answers. In so many ways, it created more problems. I'll leave you to discuss, and we start at 5 o'clock for the children. I'll come back at 5 o'clock. You got half an hour. I'll leave you in your thoughts. Marco is thinking very hard. The way you're thinking, there'll be no hair left on your head soon. It'll be worse than me by my age.
This is Denny. The thing I'm curious about is that during our transition time, we've been taking the energies from different plants, different things that we eat, even the animals, hamburgers and things. Will there come a time that we don't have to do that? That we'll know how to create those frequencies without utilizing the different natures of the plants? That's a question I have, and that's what I'm curious about. Well, I yield my time now to someone else.
Would anybody care to comment on that? There's Armin would like to speak about it. Oops, there he goes. No.
Well, my thoughts on it are I would sure like to be able to eliminate that process and that transition. I know that as I'm building my spaceship, I really don't want to trace of in that spaceship that I've killed a plant or have killed an animal in order to build that spaceship and using that to survive now. There comes a point where I want to step away from that aspect of my existence and go from there. I want to transition from that experience. So now I yield my time again to someone else.
What about an amino acid amulet or bracelet or necklace?
Like Mike did and showed how to read the circle where he took his circle and put 2 twists in it for hydrogen and 6 for what is it, carbon, and 7 and 8. He took his circle and bent it in on itself and made an amino acid so that he could then influence his water. Is that something
Along
as well?
those lines, many roads to the same place, but yes, I was thinking I was stuck in the Spanish speaking workshop with the bracelets mode, and I was thinking necklaces, but actually shifting gears and going back a day or two here, that's something we'll be exploring also. I've got stuff nano coating to play with that one. Okay.
So you're saying you got your CO2 kit, you're going to get amino acids from that.
Yeah.
Take the energy from the amino acids. You're not taking them from a plant. You're taking them directly from the energy of the amino acid that you got.
Well, we keep collecting the CO2 GANs, and then we have a separate baggie with the skimmings off the top of the CO2 kits. When I can visualize what I want better and consider all the ramifications of what I'm doing, play with that.
I take it you were busy when you went back home on your vacation.
Yeah, life is getting in the way here. It's really.
You were able to get your kits and make some CO2 GANs and collect amino acid.
We've been teaching some classes and making winding health pens and pins, and my nano coating process is what I'm the most lax on. I'll end up involved in a project and not giving the my nano coating goes a long time in between discharging. Let's go that way. Instead of every 5-6 hours to take the charge off, mine goes days.
Mine went the whole vacation. All I did was before the vacation, I nano coated some wires and nano coated some plates, and I've looked in on them once in a while and say, "That's nice. I'll be back later." And so far, I haven't even used the plates to build me any CO2 GANs. So I was hoping that my knowledge would progress fast enough that I wouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, well, things are changing at lightning speed here. So I've nano coated ping pong balls and melted a bunch, and didn't there's an art to that. And then I'm winding up coils, little pine cone looking windings, to forgo the ping pong balls. Even I'm not sure if many ways to the same place, I suppose.
Where you gonna?
Yeah, this is like me and computers. If I wait 10 years, then jump back in with 2 feet and then surf for a while. If you're not on it for 3 years in a row, you're old school out of it. I'm still trying to figure out what I nano-coded a bunch of parts before I knew what I wanted, before I went off to school. And so I've got copper reducing pipe fittings, 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch copper pipe, and unions and elbows and end caps and things, all nano coated for 4 or 5 months now. They look really nice. I've just got to come up with a nice project for them to utilize what I've got.
From time to time, you're going to hear Christopher yelling in the background here. So I spend more time laughing at myself than I do getting it done. So I started out, I got myself back when we were getting water out of off of the containers that we had our gans in.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I might do that. I wonder how I could do that. So I got these 2 big carboys. One's a 6 gallon and one's a 2 gallon. And I was going to cut the bottom out of the 6 gallon and put the 2 gallon in the carboy, and I was going to drip the water out of the end of the opening of the top of the carboy. And so now I don't have to do that. And then I got me a whole bunch of little balls, plastic balls that you have, they're hemispheres and they fit together. And I said, well, I'll put a whole bunch of gans in that, and that way everything could circulate around those balls, and it'd be more air and flow through it, and I could get more water off of it. And so then along came Mike Asif, and he created a little twist, and I said, well, now I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So I got all these balls, and I thought, well, I could use these balls too to make little reactors and spin around. And so I got a lot of little fans that you can plug into a USB port to use as my motors. And I said, now that we had the windings, I said, oh boy, I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And now last week or somewhere between the beginning and now, Mr. Kesh said, well, you could put these this GANs and the energies around a bath and lay in that, and if you did it just right, then you would be able to get rid of any cancers that you have in your body. You could probably feed yourself that way as well. And so I thought I'd have some fun with it. And I got me a kid's swimming pool that blows up. So now I have inside the blow up where you put the air, you could also put your GANs and your water, and you may not even have to put water in the swimming pool. You could just lay down in the empty pool, and you would be like the water we've been putting in the health glasses. So I'm hoping I don't have to do that. Then when So now I got those conical glasses, the martini glass and the champagne flutes. Some of them are plastic and two of them are copper. And I says, well, I should be able to put the coils, build my coils in such a way that, and coat them with through the the GANs infused nutrients of the different plants, and then I can use those chalices for the health cup. And so I guess I'm interested in doing that. I kind of want to do that one.
That one somehow does sound like it's going to pan out for you. You know, that sounds like a definite. Eh?
So
Does that seem like that to you as well?
Yeah, and I got these carboys now, and I'm glad I don't have to cut the bottom off the one. But when Mike did that, those loops, he showed us two ways. He said, well, you could make a clip out of it, but you'll need two clips, or you can build this long braid of Trinity wire. In fact, you don't have to stop at the Trinity. You can keep on going. And so I have the carboy, the 6-gallon carboy, and I said, well, what's the circumference of the carboy? And it came out to about 33 inches. And then, so that gives me, if I wanted a Trinity wire, I'd have to make it 3 times 33 just to go around it once. So I want to go around it at least 8 times. And so finally I said to myself, well, why don't I just overdo it? I've got this little 26 gauge wire. I got about 600 feet of it in a spool of it. And and so I measured it out. I got a pole out there. Finally, I figured out how much wire I was going to use, where I had one pole. I stuck a metal stake in the ground, and it all turned out to be it would be about 33 feet apart. And I would go wrap it around. You go start at one pole, fasten the wire to one pole, and walk down to the other pole and go around it, and come back to the first pole and go around it, and stop at the second pole, and you got your Trinity. But I am not stopping at the Trinity. I'm going all the way up to the 8. So you have 8 loops at the end, but you're still only going to have 2 wires, one that's fastened to the first pole and one that's fastened to the last pole that you're done. And when you get to that last pole, you slip it off and you start twisting it. So I can figure out how to do all that. So I'm going to film it for everybody, and I hope I can get some humor out of it, because I've got a North Pole and I got a South Pole. And so I'm going to use my North Pole as the starting point. As I walk down to the South Pole, I'm hoping to film all that and come back so that people can understand the infinity loop. And so that's one of the things I'm going to do. Then I have a bunch of little 8-ounce bottle glasses, and I can put some. So I'm going to put the little clips on that. Then I have my 3-gallon carboy. I can do clips on that. And I think at the end of those clips, you could use zip ties to hold the clip on. You go through the loop and hold the clip on it. With those, since he showed me how to take and make those amino acid things out of the circle, when I put those loops on the post, they become a circle. And so I'm going, just a minute. So they will become each little circle become amino acid. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Are you there, Rick? Hopefully I didn't say too much to bore you. Okay, when you make a loop at the end of your Trinity wire, you're going to have two loops. They're circles. They're round, and so he showed you how to squish a circle in at this point and this point, and then you do 2 twists to get the hydrogen, and you do 6 twists to do the carbon. What's Cohen's name? COHN. So I think 7 is nitrogen and 8 is oxygen. So now that loop that you wrap around your drinking vessel can be an amino acid as well. And you can put 2 amino acids because you have 2 loops. But if you decide not to stop at the Trinity, you can put more loops on it. 620, it was, and it's really thin, so you can't see it. In order to make it so you can see it, it's like spider web. You gotta take it down. To show the process, I may use a rope so I can film it so that people can see the principle behind it. Well, you got the North Pole and
yourself while you're doing it.
But don't do what?
Don't talk to yourself while you're doing it.
I was gonna sing. I was gonna say, "Here we go, loop de loop. Here we go, loop de lie," just for the fun of it,
Just put have an earbud in while you're doing that. That'll be all the explanation.
Okay, well, that's enough of fun. It's
Well,
almost time for the kids show. I hope I've warmed it up.
well, we're all getting a little loopy, I would say, in a way, because that's what we're doing is these infinity loops and wires, and it's pretty crazy in a way, but in another way, that's how we learn how light moves, and that's how plasma moves, and how things other than matter move. And that's what it's all about. So let's everybody keep moving, and hopefully we'll start moving vertically soon. And we'll stop becoming the horizontal people and becoming not the vertical people, but the, what you call it, the positioned people. Positioned anywhere we like.
The same thing with Mike's stuff. Instead of, if you have that much wire and you can make that many, well, since he uses 2 clips, 2 C things, and he doesn't complete it, you put one at the top and one at the bottom. That gives you a little room to walk in with a little cylindrical room that you can make, and you can open up the door and you can step through the distance between the 2 C clips. Do you remember the C clips that he showed?
C clips. I'm not quite sure what you mean by C clips.
Our friends there at Bill's old stopping grounds there at the teachers support blackboard, they had a real short wire, and he says, well, you don't need to make all those loops around the container. You can make 2 small ones, twist it 8 times. You can't just use 1, you got to use 2. Do you remember him saying that?
I'm not recalling the C-clip thing, sorry, but
you don't
go ahead.
Twist the wire together. Well, somebody will, or I made it up, and
no, you've got a good memory for these things, so I'm sure it was there.
So I only got 4 minutes left before it's 9 o'clock. I'm going to yield my time to somebody who has something else to say. Goodbye.
Okay, thanks, Denny. And I'm thinking maybe we should take a few minutes off and then try to get the children's workshop started in 4 minutes. So perhaps we'll end the recording of this part of the workshop, which is the health teaching workshop. And it's for Tuesday, September 22nd, 2015. So we'll end that part of the workshop for now and take a couple minutes break and get back into the children's workshop, otherwise known as the kids workshop. Okay. Stop that recording and stop the